Alright, here we are with video number 7 of Chapter 2. This is going to be the last one of Chapter 2, which is going to be that last kind of unofficial thing that is going to lead America into the Civil War. So, we're just going to kind of talk a little bit about the changes in political parties, which is going to set up what we have today, our two-party system. Then, yet again, another event that is going to make the Northerners and Southerners clash, and almost to the point where there's nothing that can be done to fix it there. So, as it says on top, change in political parties. So right now we have the Democrats. They are mostly going to be the people in power, and they are mostly going to be in the South. So right now the people in the South are kind of king of the government. They are really, the Senate is kind of tied, but they have a lot of majority in the House of Representatives. So in 1854, the Republican Party is officially going to form. And they are going to form in the greatest state in the Union. So take a second to think about it. And that is in the state of Wisconsin. So 1854, people get together. They are the Whigs, the Free Soilers. I don't really talk too much about the Free Soilers. The big thing that they want to do, they want to abolish slavery. The Whigs are kind of on that same premise of abolishing slavery. But that's not the reason the Republican Party formed. Because within the Republican Party, they could not agree solely on the idea of what should happen with slavery. A lot of people wanted it completely abolished. A lot of people thought that it should just not expand. Some people thought that it should be the same. But the Republican Party, their big idea, their big kind of platform or plank at this point is they just want to keep slavery out of the new territories. And Abraham Lincoln, there's kind of this almost like myth that when he was elected president that he wanted to end slavery. We know that he did. We know that he was president during the 13th Amendment. He was the one who issued the Emancipation Proclamation. But he never came out and actually said that he wanted slavery gone. He did not want it to expand, which is really what the Republican Party is going to be doing at this point. The Northern Democrats are also going to start to split at this time period, and it's kind of a bad thing for the Democrats as far as them being together as one whole political party, because they're split between the North and the South. And they have a lot of the same beliefs, pretty much the biggest one being slavery, but they're starting to separate. And once they start to separate, it's going to separate the votes, which is going to be a big issue for them later on down the road. But public anger against the Northern Democrats is going to allow a new group to enter into politics. And they're a group of people known as the Know Nothing Party. And it sounds kind of almost a little bit like made up, like if you were going to be a political party, why would you call yourselves the Know Nothings? That's not really a great name that's going to be thrown out there. But they were kind of created on the premise of having a secret political party. So if you were asked about it, they know nothing, kind of as the name is going to imply here. But their big issue at this time period mostly is with immigration. They want to close the borders. They do not want any immigration here within the United States because they believe in the 1850s and far and beyond that, they think that immigration is going to take away jobs from people who are already living in the United States. But thinking about that time period, that's not really a big issue. So because that's not a big issue, but that's what they're going to be behind, they're not really going to get elected into national positions. They might win some at the state level, but as far as nationally, that's not really going to work out for them. And even with kind of all this, we're starting to have a change in the political parties here. We have the formation of the Republicans. In 1856, they do run a new person for president. So we get to the two-party system we have today where there's always going to be a Republican, there's always going to be a Democrat. And his name was John C. Fremont. He, however, was not elected as president. In 1856, Democrat James Buchanan is going to win the presidency. And on here, which I'll move my camera so you can see a little bit better, is going to show you exactly how easy it was for Buchanan to win. If you're looking at these, and we haven't seen these maps or talked too much about these maps before, looking at the key down here, anything in the blue is going to be Buchanan, the red is going to be Fremont, and then another former president, Millard Fillmore, he is going to run as a Whig, and he is only going to win the state of Maryland. But even with those growing pains, as I said, Buchanan still is going to be elected. In all reality, it's probably a good thing that it's going to be him at this time period, because John C. Fremont wasn't really a great leader. And as we know today, pretty much as soon as a Republican is elected into office, elected as the president, the Civil War is going to begin. So as historians, we kind of look at who would have been a better leader throughout the Civil War. Would it have been Abraham Lincoln? Would it have been John C. Fremont? And pretty much everyone's on the same page, the same agreements, that it would have been Abraham Lincoln. And if John C. Fremont would have been the president, maybe it wouldn't have been a disaster, but would have been very difficult to move forward from there. So now, as Buchanan, as him being a president, we're on the final slide here, something known as John Brown's raid. So Buchanan, he is going to urge Kansas to apply for statehood. And we talked about bleeding Kansas. We talked about the issue of what was going on there. We had the border ruffians. We had the two state constitutions. The pro-slavery side thinks they won. The anti-slavery side thinks that they won. It's just a big mess. But James Buchanan, he is going to urge Kansas to apply for statehood. So now it is going to go to the Congress. They are going to be the ones deciding if Kansas is going to be allowed to join. They're also going to be the ones deciding whether or not they're going to be free or considered to be a slave state. Now, in Kansas, supposedly speaking, out of the two constitutions, the Lecompton Constitution is the one that is voted in, and that is the one that is going to be pro-slavery. And again, talking about how big of an issue it was, they went to the city of Lecompton in Kansas, sat down, discussed the Constitution, they voted on it, so supposedly this Constitutional Convention was going to be pro-slavery. However, it went to a statewide referendum, and it was turned down. So because they were not on the same page in Kansas, it then went to the federal level. The Senate, they were the ones who passed it. The House of Representatives turned it down. So this is in 1857. Kansas is not going to become a state until 1861, so it takes about 4 years. But after those 4 years, eventually, 1861, they are admitted into the Union. They are a free state. So it's going to be President Abraham Lincoln who is going to sign that document allowing them to become a state. And now the last issue, and really no turning back at this point. It's not necessarily like a war has been declared, but North and the South, they've been fighting for years. They've been trying to put Band-Aids on some of the issues with some of the compromises, but nothing really has worked out up until this point. So John Brown, talking a little bit about him, as it's called John Brown's raid, a little bit of his background. He is an abolitionist. He believes 100%, he is very, very adamant that slavery should be outlawed. He is kind of on a different path. He does not necessarily believe that it should be done through legislation, should be done through peace. He thinks it needs to be a violent uprising. He thinks that there needs to be some sort of rebellion. And that is what he is going to try to do. So John Brown, he is going to seize an arsenal at Harper's Ferry. So an arsenal is just a different term for that's where the military, the army, that's where they're going to be keeping their weapons. So he knows that the military has their weapons at Harper's Ferry in Virginia. So he's going to go, he's going to seize those weapons. It's pretty much known immediately because there is a watchman there. But he takes the weapons, tries to start a rebellion. Colonel Robert E. Lee outnumbers Brown. And his is a very important name to think about down the road, because we're going to talk a lot about Robert E. Lee when we talk about the Civil War. So he is already a colonel in the Army. He's from Washington, D.C. They hurry down, get to John Brown. He's outnumbered. He is going to surrender. He is going to be sentenced to his death. But that is not before people in the South start to hear about this incident, start to hear about this event. Because in the end, about 51 people were killed. All Southerners. John Brown, he is a Northerner. And the Republican Party tries to save face here. They are making a lot of speeches. They are very adamant as a political party by saying what John Brown did was wrong. That if there is going to be abolition or if there is going to be emancipation, it's going to be through legislation, and everything that he did, they are going to condemn it. However, Southerners, they're not buying it. And it proves to the South that these Northerners, they are now actively plotting the murder of slaveholders. They are now actively plotting an armed rebellion. So, throughout all the different issues with Missouri Compromise, with the Compromise of 1850 in California, Uncle Tom's Cabin, all those have kind of been building up to this between the fighting within the North and the South. Now that there's a Northerner who pretty much started a rebellion, started a fight in the South that led to Southerners being killed, not much is going to be able to be done. Abraham Lincoln is still, again, he's condemning it. He's not yet president, but Southerners, they don't believe it. So now that idea of secession, of leaving the Union, forming their own country, that is definitely going to be tossed around quite a bit more. So we will stop here on that unofficial start of the Civil War. Next chapter, we'll talk a little bit more about the Civil War. Again, as always, make sure you come up with those discussion questions so we can have that talk in class.